She knew she was dying, but before she left, she decided to do something that time could never erase: to photograph ordinary women, of all shapes, ages, and backgrounds, to prove something simple and powerful: that real beauty has no standard. Helena had always seen the world through a lens. While some collected souvenirs, she collected portraits. Faces frozen in time, stories told through eyes, skin, and silence. At 68, with white curls framing a tired but dignified face, she received her final diagnosis: an inoperable tumor, already too advanced. The doctor's voice faded into a hum as her mind wandered elsewhere. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply returned home, placed her old camera on the table, and sat in silence, the afternoon sun casting golden shadows on the floor. That camera had been her companion for decades. Through its lens, she had captured weddings, births, wrinkles formed by laughter, and those shaped by grief. Her photography studio, now modest and quiet, once thrived with life and stories. But time, as always, had passed. And now she had little left, except time itself, running thin and swift. Helena had never been one for grand gestures or melodrama, but as she stared at her camera that evening, a single thought emerged, clear and inevitable. I want to leave something behind, something that matters. She didn't want to be remembered by obituaries or by the silence she'd leave in others, routines. She wanted to leave a legacy that spoke not of her death, but of life. That night, she dusted off an old sketchbook where she had once written ideas for future projects. Among notes and abandoned themes, she scribbled one phrase: the last photo. Not mine, but of those who remain. Her plan began to take shape. She would use the time she had left to photograph women. Women of different ages, colors, sizes, backgrounds. Women who, like her, had felt invisible, erased by time or the world's expectations. Not to glamorize them, not to retouch or disguise, but to reveal, to uncover the raw, stunning truth of who they were. She imagined a book, her final project. Tribute to real beauty, the kind that pulses through wrinkles, scars, stretch marks, and eyes that have seen too much and survived it all. She called a friend from the community center where she once gave photography workshops and asked softly, "Can you help me find women who want to be seen, truly seen?" The next morning, her phone began to buzz. Helena was surprised by the response. In just 2 days, over 20 women had said yes. Some timidly, some eagerly, some anonymously. But they all wanted in some way to exist, to be framed, to be remembered. The first to arrive was Clara. She was 22, short hair, baggy clothes that seemed to hide more than just her body. She sat in the studio chair as if it were a trap. Helena didn't reach for her camera right away. She offered tea instead. Mint, served in a chipped porcelain cup that had survived decades of shoots and countless stories. Clara held the cup with both hands, as if warming more than just her fingers. "Why did you come?" Helena asked gently. "Because I hate how I look," Clara answered without blinking. "And I thought, maybe your lens sees something different." That was the first time Helena smiled that day. Not out of joy, but recognition. She positioned Clara near the window, where the afternoon light softened even the harshest features. But Clara couldn't look at the lens. She stared at the floor, ashamed of something that no one had accused her of. "You don't have to pose," Helena said. "Just be. I'll take care of the rest." The click of the shutter was barely audible. Helena didn't ask Clara to smile, didn't ask her to fix her posture or hide her scars. She just waited, and in that waiting, something subtle happened. Clara raised her eyes, not toward the camera, toward herself. As if, for the first time, she dared to inhabit her own body. When the session ended, Helena showed her one of the photos on the camera screen. Clara's reaction wasn't immediate. Her lips trembled. Her eyes filled. "I look like I exist," she whispered. "You do," Helena replied. "And you're beautiful." That night, Helena wrote in her sketchbook, "Clara, beauty is the courage to face yourself without armor." She went to sleep with a peaceful breath. Not because the pain had subsided, but because something inside her had shifted. This was her purpose now, and time, though short, was enough. The second woman arrived with presents. Valeria was 56, wore red lipstick, and walked as if the world owed her space. But behind her elegance, there was something guarded, like a house with the lights on, but the doors locked. Helena greeted her with warmth and curiosity. Valeria looked around the studio with a mix of nostalgia and tension. "It smells like memories in here," she said. Helena nodded. That's what it was built for. They talked. Not about poses, not about angles, but about time. Valeria had been a ballet dancer in her youth. Her body had once obeyed her with grace. But aging, she confessed, had felt like betrayal. "I walk into a room and people no longer turn their heads. I became invisible." Helena didn't flinch. She had heard those words before, from women young and old. "Would you dance for me?" she asked. Valeria looked surprised. "Here?" Helena smiled. "No audience, no stage, just me, you, and the lens." At first, Valeria hesitated. Then, slowly, she removed her heels, letting her bare feet touch the wooden floor. She raised her arms, spine tall, and moved. Her body, though no longer light as air, told a story with every step. A story of resilience, of losses accumulated like wrinkles, of victories not posted, but deeply felt. Helena clicked the shutter. Once, twice. Then she stopped. She didn't want to interrupt the sacredness of that moment. When Valeria finished, she was breathing hard but smiling. "I haven't done that in 20 years." Helena showed her a photo, arms stretched mid-turn, shadows highlighting the curve of her neck, her face aglow with movement. "Is that really me?" she whispered. "Yes," Helena said. "And you've never stopped being seen. The world just forgot how to look." Valeria left with a copy of the image. She kissed Helena's cheek and said, "Thank you for reminding me who I am." That night, Helena wrote in her sketchbook, "Valeria, beauty is what remains when time erases everything else." The pain in her body grew heavier, but so did the meaning in her days. Each woman left something behind, echoes of stories that would outlive them both. And Helena, with every click, felt herself becoming more alive. On the third week, Helena received a message that simply said, "I don't speak. Is that a problem?" She replied, "No. Come as you are." Rafaela was 35. She had been deaf since birth and communicated through Brazilian Sign Language. Helena didn't know much of it, but she had learned over a lifetime that silence could speak volumes. When Rafaela arrived, she brought her mother, who helped translate their first words. But once Rafaela sat in front of the camera, no interpreter was needed. Helena smiled gently and raised her camera. Rafaela nodded. The silence that filled the room wasn't awkward. It was reverent. Rafaela didn't pose in the traditional sense. She existed in stillness, with a depth that felt almost ancient. Her face, soft but firm, had that quiet beauty that lingers long after the moment passes. Helena, without saying a word, circled slowly around her. She captured the hands, strong, expressive, open. She focused on Rafaela's eyes, which spoke with more clarity than any voice ever could. Between shots, Rafaela touched her chest and then pointed at Helena. Her, Mother translated. She says she feels safe. Helena nodded, overcome with emotion. Later, she showed Rafaela a series of photos. The woman's eyes glistened. She signed again, and her mother translated. No one's ever looked at me like that. Like I'm whole. Helena took her hands and signed back, clumsily, but with intention. You are. That night, she wrote, Rafaela, beauty is what needs no words to be understood. Helena lay in bed with her eyes wide open. Not from pain, though that was constant now, but from the stories. Each one was building inside her, becoming more than a photo series. It was turning into a mirror for women to see themselves clearly. Sometimes for the first time, she no longer feared death. She feared not finishing what she had begun. By the fifth portrait, Helena's hands had begun to tremble. She wrapped them in a scarf when needed, pretending it was just the cold. But she knew. Time was closing in. Then came Mirella. She was 43, mother of 3, her hair hastily tied, eyes carrying the exhaustion of someone who had long stopped looking at herself in the mirror. I almost canceled, Mirella confessed at the door. I thought, why would anyone want to see this face? Helena didn't argue. She simply offered a seat and asked, when was the last time you were in a photo? Mirella took a long time to answer. Maybe 10 years ago, at a cousin's wedding. I was hiding behind a plant. They both laughed. And in that laugh, a crack appeared in Mirella's armor. She hesitated in front of the camera. I feel like I don't recognize myself anymore, like I'm a puzzle that no one finished. Helena looked at her through the lens and said, then let's collect the pieces. One photo at a time. She asked Mirella to bring things from her life, her children's drawings, a worn-out book she'd read 3 times, a small bracelet from her mother. And slowly, Mirella's posture changed. Her shoulders softened, her gaze lifted. She wasn't being photographed. She was being remembered. At one point, Helena took a photo of Mirella looking directly into the lens, holding a framed photo of herself at 20. When Mirella saw the result, she held her breath. It's like I finally met myself halfway, she said. Not the girl I was, not the woman I feared I'd become, but both, and more. Helena placed her hand gently on Mirella's shoulder. You've always been all of it. We just forget how much we hold. That night, Helena wrote, Mirella, beauty is not what is lost. It's what remains, quietly waiting to be seen again. Helena stared at the wall where she now pinned one photo from each woman. Her studio had become a mosaic of truths. Each image whispered a piece of a collective soul. And she knew. The book wouldn't just be about photography. It would be about recognition. About reclaiming the mirror. Helena could feel it. Her body was no longer asking for rest. It was insisting on it. She moved slower now. The stairs to the studio felt taller. The sunlight through the window heavier. But there was one portrait left to take. And it was her own. She hadn't planned to be part of the project. Her voice, she believed, would live through the women she had photographed. But as she pinned Mirella's photo on the wall, she paused. There, reflected faintly in the glass of the frame, was her own face. Pale, tired, and still watching. It was time. She set up the camera with a timer, adjusted the tripod with clumsy hands, sat in the same chair all the others had. She left the scarf on, not to hide, but to mark the truth of that moment. She didn't pose, didn't smile, didn't fix her hair. She simply looked forward, eyes meeting the lens with the full weight of someone who had spent a lifetime watching others find themselves. Click. The shutter echoed through the empty studio. Helena stood up, took the photo from the camera, and placed it last on the wall. Her face didn't look young, didn't look heroic. It looked real, like someone who had lived. That evening, she invited the women whose portraits lined the walls: Clara, Valeria, Rafaela, Mirella, and others who had come after. They stood in silence, gazing at the gallery, their gallery. Some cried, some laughed. All of them saw something different in themselves. "You didn't just take pictures," Valeria said. "You returned our faces to us." Helena's voice trembled. "You gave me my last work, my last beauty." She handed each of them a copy of their portrait. And then, a printed proof of the book. The cover read, "Reflections, the beauty we forgot to see." The last image in the book was hers. No caption, no filters, just a woman looking into the lens and seeing herself. That night, Helena wrote one final line in her sketchbook. "Beauty is not what we capture, it's what we allow to be seen." She fell asleep with the book on her chest, surrounded by the stories she had honored. And when the morning came, she didn't wake, but the images remained, framed, printed, living. Have you ever struggled to love yourself as you are? Tell us your story in the comments. Let's make this space a circle of real beauty and support. And if this video touched your heart, don't forget to like it, share it with another strong woman, and subscribe for more stories that reflect the truth of who we are.